If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I'm Bex Simon, and I'm an artsmith.
Hello, and welcome to Art, the podcast where we get to know creative women from around the world of visual arts. I'm Chris Stafford, and this is Season 3, Episode 5. My guest this week is the British Artsmith Bex Simon, who has overcome difficult mental health issues to become highly sought after for her creative work in metal. Bex is unconstrained in her approach to design by combining geometric shapes and textures. Her sculptures and public art tell stories relative to the surrounding environment and can be found around the UK. Bex was born in Chertsey, Surrey in 1973, the third of 4 children. She has an older sister and brother and a younger brother. Bex reflects on a very strict upbringing from her parents Tim, a computer engineer, and Jel, a retired teacher who later volunteered at a school for handicapped children. A relationship now which has mellowed with time and understanding of Bex's mental health. Bex was attracted to the art of blacksmithing as a teenager, and despite struggling at school with dyslexia, she studied at the Surrey Institute of Art and Design Foundation, graduating in 1992. In 1995, she graduated with a BA in three-dimensional design in metal from the Surrey Institute of Art and Design, followed in 1998 by a diploma and national certificate from Hereford College of Technology, and in 2017, a Level 3 Diploma in Advanced Forge Work, DFS, from Herefordshire and Ludlow College. In 2019, she began studying geometry at the Prince's Foundation School of Traditional Arts. In 1999, Bex moved to London and established her creative blacksmithing business with the help of the Prince's Trust. Initially, she worked on private commissions, acquired from exhibiting regularly at the Chelsea and Hampton Court Flower Shows. Later, she moved on to larger-scale public artwork projects via collaborations with a selected group of artist blacksmiths. Her biggest commission to date being a 40-metre public artwork for Westminster Magistrates Court in London. It was for that installation that she became the first woman to receive the Tony Pandy Cup, the most prestigious award given by the Worshipful Company of Blacksmiths. Bex lives in North Devon with her husband Dave and their daughters Molly and Leonie. Bex, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, how are you?
Well, thank you for taking the time to do this, because I know your working day is pretty intense, isn't it? I think it would be fair to say you're a hard-working artsmith.
Yeah, we are juggling quite a bit, but it's all good. Thank you.
Well, let's start with that, because I know you specifically call yourself an artsmith. Now, I go back to riding ponies and riding my pony to the blacksmith in the next village, but we've come a long way since then. Now we call the blacksmith the farrier. But the artsmith, and the other word that you're using now is geometallist and geometallism. So unpack that for us, would you please, so that the audience understands exactly what you do.
So I decided to adopt the name Artsmith because the moment you mention the word blacksmith, people sort of ask you, one of the main things is, so you like horses then and shoe horses, like you said, which is a farrier. And also it conjures up a sort of image of a Viking, striking hot metal, forging swords and things. So I kind of wanted people to be a bit more inquisitive into, what it is. And it's art basically over the anvil. So, forging art over the anvil. And yeah, well, that's basically what it is. Losing the word, blacksmith, because it has been artist blacksmith, which I think, we've had a good run of the artist blacksmith, but I think it needs a fresher sort of take on if it's a fresher take what we actually do these days. Just sorry, my mind has just gone completely blank. It's basically, we've had the artist blacksmith. It was a big revival in sort of the 70s and 80s. And I just feel like we sort of need another look at what we do. We need the art world to take note. We need the craft world, like the craft council, to sort of look at what we do again. So it's sort of refreshing, bringing in a new sort of interesting shorter name, as it were.
Well, it does seem perfectly fitting. I hope this is a name that's going to be adopted because it speaks to exactly what you do. And for those who are not familiar with your work, it's very hard work. It's very physical. It's very heavy work. I know that you don't pick the anvil up and throw it around the room, but it's very hard work physically, isn't it? So give us a sense of what your day might be like, Bex.
Yes, it is. It is incredibly physical. So, I go in the morning and it depends on what project I'm working on. But, if I know I'm forging all day, then, the next day I will sort of consider what it is I'm actually doing that day, because doing 2 physical days of forging in a row is it is very exhausting and it's quite hard on your hands. I mean, especially now that I'm, over my 50s. So I do sort of really have to figure out how my week goes in the workshop. So I'll go in, I'll light the fire up and I'll prepare my steel whilst my fire is getting to a good heat and stuff. And I generally forge for as many couple of hours that I can. And I'll stop and have a break and, look at what I'm doing, switch the fire off, maybe do a bit of welding in the afternoon and things. Also, try and have some time in the office designing. So, just sort of break up a little bit more, not like the old days when you just sort of leap about the whole week. Well, mind you, yeah, because now we're teaching on the weekends. So we are consistently doing things. So, yeah, it's knowing when to have a break and things in between.
Well, I'm going to ask you about the we of that when you refer to the we, but I just want to come back to the fire when you say you get the fire going, because back in the day, in my childhood, all the forges were coal or coke. And nowadays, of course, there's so many more mobile forges, but they're gas now. So what's yours?
Well, I do have a gas forge. I do use that for like repetitive little things, like if we're doing the skewers, perhaps. But at the moment it's not working anyhow. But I much prefer using the fire, so I use coke, traditional coke. Yes, I use coke.
So that's still readily available in the West Country.
Yeah, it's more expensive and it's not as good quality as when I first started out, but that's currently what I use. I much prefer to have the traditional fire because I've trained like that. I was only really introduced to using a sort of furnace with that. Well, it was when I moved to here, so about 4 years ago. So since 1999, I've only ever used coke and proper traditional fire.
Explain to us why you prefer that heat to gas.
I think partly because of the traditional nature of fire. It's such a beautiful thing. It's so exciting, and you learn fire management. So, I mentioned about the skewers, but before having, a furnace, I've, always done it in the fire. I've learned how to control the heat and where to put all the skewers in a row, so you know when the heat's ready, so you don't burn your work. And I find that really, it's lovely.
It is an art in itself. What are skewers in your terms?
Oh, skewers for barbecue, barbecuing.
Oh, those kind of skewers. Okay, I was looking for something more complex, but I get it. Okay. Talk about the we part, because you referred to we. So someone else is in the forge with you.
Yeah. So it's me and my husband. So when I set my business up in 1999, it was just myself, and then every now and then, working with somebody. But Dave, my husband, came into the business in 2010 when we were expecting our first child, and now. I mean, we worked full time together then, but now we've moved to North Devon. We've got the two different businesses. So we have Old Pound Smithy, which is a glamping, unique stays and blacksmith experience. And then I have my art that I'm building. So, I mean, really, this has only happened in the last couple of years. This is why we moved to North Devon. Because I've always wanted to do art without commission, just my own art, but funding that. So we had to think of a way, of funding that need. So he runs the Old Pound Smithy and the glamping, and I'm in my workshop. But I often need Dave to come in and help me, and we chat things through and stuff. And also I teach with him, or I assist him teaching, and I'm also a cleaner.
What are you teaching?
Just traditional blacksmithing. We have traditional bellows. We've got 6 anvils. So we teach bottle openers, skewers. I teach some forged geometry. It's a blacksmith experience. So it's very traditional, basic skills.
What was Dave's background then, before you joined forces?
So when we first started seeing each other, he was living in France and running a renovation company, on the chalets and buildings out there. And then he moved back to England, and he studied charter building surveying, and then he worked for Clutton's in London, surveying their buildings, and then obviously came and joined me in my business. So he's got a very broad range of skills, which was fantastic, especially when we did a lot of the public art in London. He was really good at chairing, the project managing, and then all the foundations and stuff like that. So we actually made a really good team. He does a lot of the work, I do the designing. I'm like the complete artist. So, we're a good solid team together.
How did you meet?
So both our brothers met, were best friends at medical school. So I think our first meeting was, he was 18, I was 21, and we were aware of each other then. And then it was a mutual friend's wedding sort of many years ago. Actually, it's our wedding anniversary on Friday, and we'll be married 16 years.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's wind the clock back a little bit here, Bex, because we've got a picture of what you're doing now, what a day looks like for you, and it's obviously full on. But it all started for you in London. You're a Londoner, aren't you? You're not exactly a Cockney. You grew up in Surrey. Where exactly in Surrey?
Yeah, so I'm born and bred Surrey. I was born in Chertsey, St. Peter's, and grew up in Walton and Weybridge. But then the moment I could, I moved to London, and moved different places, but I was mainly in Shepherd's Bush, and the workshop was over in Hackney.
So you started this very young. What was your childhood like? What was the initial catalyst then for you breaking and making this your career?
Well, basically just being dyslexic and not any good at school whatsoever. Obviously, they didn't know when I was at school, so I really, really didn't enjoy school. But then I found art college. I used to work in clay, but I'm incredibly impatient. So the rolling of slabs and, leaving things to dry overnight really didn't suit my impatientness. So, I went and did a foundation at, the Surrey Institute. I think it's called something different now. And then I was introduced to the forge and, blacksmithing, swinging hammers with fire and welding. So, yeah, that was when I, started my interest in that.
What was childhood like for you? You're one of 4 children. You have an older sister and 2 brothers.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what childhood was like for you. What are your earliest memories?
Oh my goodness! Well, a child of the 70s. I remember power cuts and all sorts. Parents were quite strict. My mum's quite religious and stuff. We were a close family. 4 kids and that. I was very close with my younger brother because we're very close in age. I mean, my siblings, my big sister and big brother are both medics, and my little brother are both the creative ones. My dad was a chartered building. Not a chartered. He was a computer programmer. It's because I visualized the sea then. Took me off on a tangent. He's a computer programmer, and my mum was a teacher up until she had the 4 of us, and she had all 4 of us by the time she was 28. We're all under the age of 5. Yeah, Catholics.
Did that stick with you, the religion and her beliefs?
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Well, I grew up, obviously in a Catholic school and going to church and stuff, but obviously mental health, being bipolar, I didn't trust a lot of people. So I used to go to church because I found, I sort of would talk to God, which now is my universe. So I sort of found some sort of peace in that until I discovered geometry and realized that basically religion is geometry and God is the universe. So I've sort of adapted it over and stuff. But yeah, I mean, my mum was very strict. My folks were very strict. I suppose, for young kids, you kind of have to really. And it also is a different era then, growing up in those era. I think most people were smacked.
Well, yes, it certainly was a different disciplinary attitude. But does that come from their parents, maybe from your maternal grandparents or your paternal grandparents? Where do you think that originally comes from?
I think probably they all had pretty, strict parents. I mean, I know my mum's gran. I mean, she had bipolar, manic depression, so all sorts was going on there. But yeah, I think generally growing up, because they're all quite old, like traditional. Well, yeah, I mean, my not my grandparents on my mum's side were from North, and then my other grandparents, my dad's side, their family escaped the war because they're Jewish, and escaped over here, changed their names and stuff.
Yeah, what do you know of that story? Did they share that with you?
Yeah. Well, they so it was my granny Tilly. So her parents, they got wind of, all the things were kicking off with the Jews and, and everything, and they're Jewish. So their family escaped over to England and changed their names to sort of more British sounding names and things, and sort of blended into society, as it were.
Do you know what they were escaping, where they were escaping from in Germany? Was it Germany or Poland? Where were they actually escaping from?
It was Germany. I don't know those sorts of details.
But they managed to get away before the war.
Yeah, it was just sort of rumbling. So, and it was my Granny Tilly, her parents, and they came over to England. Oh, there's the dog. So they made it over and stuff. So we've got that sort of Jewish part in us as well.
Yes, on your father's side, that is.
Yeah, on my father's side. And my mum's side, my grandpa Billy, he was a tool maker in the war, and him and his brother Johnny, they used to do like balancing on each other, and they used to get £1 a show at the circus.
That's interesting. Did they tell you stories? Did you have a bond with any of your grandparents? Often we do, don't we? There's one or two that we particularly bond with. Yeah,
well, my grandpa Billy, Gramps, me and him were really close because it was Molly, my granny, his wife. She had manic depression, and so when she died, I used to go and visit him loads, and I'd just been diagnosed, and so he would tell me stories that he hadn't even told my mum about Granny, because he understood what was going on with me. I used to go every Tuesday evening after work. He'd get the old slides out, we'd put the slides on and just go through it and have dinner together. So we had a really close relationship. My Granny Tilly was completely eccentric and just incredible human being. I wish that I had spent more time with her, because she was really eccentric, and you'd say, "Oh, Granny, I love your jumper," and she'd go, "Oh, when I'm dead, you can have it." And stuff. She was really cool, collect really amazing clothes and antique furniture. She used to be a ballerina, but obviously she got anorexia from it, which slightly ruined her life, which she told me about.
Did they have any crafts, then, your grandparents, that you're aware of?
Well, my grandpa was a tool maker, so he used to tell me about, how to warm up your tools in the winter. He said they used to put a heater under a metal table, put all their spanners on, so when in the wintertime when they'd pick up their tools, they'd be warm.
Good advice. I hope you use that advice now.
Yeah, sort of.
It must have been difficult for you when you were diagnosed, because knowing that there was a family history there. How did you feel you coped with it? Were your parents very supportive and guiding you?
No, it was all a bit weird, to be honest, because I was getting more and more peculiar, and I figured that there was something wrong with my brain that wasn't normal, because I could hear voices and things like, groups of people sort of over in a corner. I could sort of hear exactly what they were saying, and, and I webs of things. And I just, it was a very strange time. So, and I was really anorexic because I was really scared of people poisoning my food and stuff. So, I was going a bit like mad anyway. And, so when they diagnosed me, I think it was quite hard for my parents to accept at first, just because I was quite naughty. I really rebelled because I didn't know what was going on in my head. So I was, I was a bit wild, to be honest, big on drinking and things.
And what age were you when you were diagnosed, Bex?
I think I was around 25, 26 sort of thing.
And how did you distract yourself? What were ways that you could calm your mind and distract yourself? Did you enjoy sports or music?
Drinking. which is terrible. But so from a very early age, I used to drink, but I've always been into running and exercise, swimming and running. I just had to run and exercise because I knew that it helped my head. But then, obviously I did drinking. I got diagnosed at the beginning of last summer with ADHD. So that solves that problem of what was going on there. So yeah, but I've always been very into exercise and swimming and running to quiet my brain.
Yeah. And do you still do those things?
Yeah, I have to.
Sort of on a daily basis, you go off and go for a run, do you?
Well, it depends now with the workshop because obviously I have to conserve my energy. So on like a Monday evening, I swim and then I take the dog on a hike Wednesday morning and then Friday morning I go running and then obviously I exercise over the weekend.
And I'm sure that will help your general fitness anyway. Do you do any strength training for the work that you do?
No, not really. It's just what I do in the workshop. Again, because you kind of have to conserve your energy because you do get really tired.
And when you were in high school then, what kind of a teenager were you? Apart from the drinking, I think, came a little bit later, but did you have many friends? Were you able to form your own community and your own team around you and to get that sort of support or, to help you through your family?
At school we had a good little crew of mates, but again, I was really naughty and I did start drinking when I was at school. So, but I was sort of, one of the rebels, the naughty one, smoking underneath the classrooms and things. And because I really didn't understand school, so I didn't know I was dyslexic. I just thought everybody was talking in a different language. The only place I really loved was art. The moment I stepped into that art room, it was just relief for me because I just knew what I was doing and I just really enjoyed it. And then the rest of the time, because I didn't understand what was going on, then I'd try and cheat so I wouldn't get bad mark and then I'd get caught. So, it was just all very confusing at school.
Very challenging, I would think. Very challenging for you as a teenager.
Yeah. Yeah. But you sort of, I suppose, you sort of get through it. And then I was just really naughty. So I think I was a real handful for my parents,
I'm wondering then that naughtiness, how it played out,
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
You said you were very rebellious, so give us an idea of what kind of tricks you were up to in school and if you got caught or for those you didn't get caught for, because I'm sure there are people listening thinking, well, yeah, I did that, but I didn't get caught for it.
Well, it's things like, when they're about to ask someone a question, and because I just didn't know what everyone was talking about. So I'd do things like I'd cough, because the moment you start coughing, they're not going to pick on you. The other one was if you got a piece of paper and you made it into a spike and you waggle it up in your nose, then if you do it for a bit, your eyes water, but then you sneeze like loads and loads and loads of times, and then they'd send you out. So then you stay out of the lesson and stuff. So yeah, lots of things like that going on. Anything to just not get asked, especially reading out loud. I mean, that was just, horrendous.
Absolutely. What did you enjoy about your youth generally?
Well, I had lots of, I mean, my friends were, I mean, it sounds really unfair to my mum and dad because I absolutely love my mum and dad now, but obviously we had lots of issues back then. But I absolutely adored my friends, going out with my friends. Obviously the parties, rave scene started. So we'd go off to the raves, and growing up in Walton and Weybridge, you'd have Weybridge Cricket Green, and all of the kids, not just our young age, school age, we'd have sort of people up over late 20s. So we had pockets of all these different crews of people hanging out, and, and we'd go and look for old house parties and things. So that was just absolutely brilliant fun because, we didn't have phones. You'd make one arrangement on your house line and everyone would stick to it. So Weybridge Cricket Green, and then to get in the pubs, you'd do the old light a fag to try and look a bit older to get in the pub. So, that side of things was right laugh. It was, it was brilliant, good fun.
All right. For our global audience, lighting a fag is lighting a cigarette.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of then your own ambitions, at what point did you decide, because you explained a little bit about your early interest in what you're doing now, but give us a sense of what that milestone was like. What was that point in your life, in your early life, where you thought, okay, this is what I want to do. I can rationalize geometry. I can figure out. This works for my brain, and this is something I can do and possibly be successful at. What was that turning point for you, Bex?
So, I mean, the geometries come a lot later. I mean, the geometries, sort of relatively new. It was the blacksmithing. I mean, the blacksmithing for me has actually, that was my saving grace. That was my art therapy. I just consumed myself in work. So I realized I wanted to do blacksmithing. I went to Hereford College of Technology in I think it was 1996. And I was only meant to be there for a year, and I was 2 years there, and I absolutely loved it. And I just be working with the fire, just a whole craft, a technical, anyway. So that was the first thing, I absolutely knew I had to do this. So I immersed myself in my business. All my friends at that sort of age were going off traveling and things, but I just set my business up and just worked and worked. I mean, I worked 7 days a week solidly for about 6 years when I first set the business up. I just consumed, which was absolutely amazing. But obviously, you have to pay the bills. So I couldn't just make what I wanted to make. You have to do commission work. So I'd do Chelsea Flower Show and Hampton Court Flower Show. I'd create, gates and outdoor furniture and create a stand. I'd get a huge overdraft from the bank, which was really easy to do back then. And then I'd build my stand. Then you'd do the show. You'd make stuff you'd sell off the show stand to pay back for your stand. And then you'd get enough commissions for the rest of the year. So I did that for many, many years. We did. And then obviously Dave came into the company. And so we started to do more public art. But all of this is commission based. So, it's under other people's briefs. It's not necessarily what you want to do. And I remember when I first lived in London, standing in the Isle of Gardens, looking over, to the O2 and just saying, all I want to do is make art, And it's taken me up until literally a couple of years ago, having found geometry. I got a scholarship from Quest, the Queen Elizabeth Scholarship Trust, which enabled me to study geometry at now the King's Foundation in London, to study geometry and understand more about it. And then, fully adopt the two. So my love of blacksmithing, the craft, and doing my own work with the geometry. So, I mean, it's been such a long time. I mean, I'm now going to be 52 this year. I set up my business in 1999. I've waited 26 years for this very exciting moment now where I've adopted this geometalism. I've created an ism.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Talk a little bit more about that, because that's obviously a critical part of your design, and you're responsible for all your designs now. Give us a picture of what that looks like.
Well, so basically, isms are, they've been what's sort of recorded art throughout, since the Renaissance period, and I was looking at blacksmithing and, our craft and thinking, because isms, record what's going on, culturally, society, around what is happening. And I just thought, with us, with our work, what is it that we're doing? I was doing a lot of Art Nouveau, and I'm like, well, I'm just regurgitating Art Nouveau, and, and I love nature, but I'm just doing sort of like realism. So then I was like, well, what is actually going on around us? And, we'd had things like Brexit, we'd had the virus, all these things separating us. There's wars, and geometry is very much about togetherness, working together, and this is what we should be doing, working with our communities, looking after each other. If you draw geometry really badly, it doesn't link up. And so it doesn't work. And that's like societies and communities, if we all link together, looked after one another, looked after the universe, the nature, all these things wouldn't be falling apart. And I really love that aspect. And then I also, the craft, with forging geometry, if you're doing a process and then you have to do it over and over and over again, you're improving your craftsmanship skills, which, with blacksmithing is incredibly difficult. It's not just hitting things with hammers. So I really liked bringing the two aspects together. So it's the geometry, and then metal, so the forging and blacksmithing, and also contemporary forms of metalworking. So not necessarily just blacksmithing, because, we're in the 21st century. So it was all those things, in my ism. So I wrote a manifesto and stuff, just hoping that other people would feel inspired as well. Right. And then, my work, when I'm long gone, it's a reflection of what was going on at the moment. We should be together.
Yes. Our art often does, doesn't it, depict where we are as an artist and what's going on in life. And it's interesting how your geometry now, in your mind, Bex, is a much more global premise, really. It is a much more global notion. It's not a lot more than your art, but it pulls together so many things and cross-pollinates to many aspects of life, from what you're saying.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, without a doubt.
It makes perfect sense to you.
Yeah, like everything in the world is, and us, like the stars, like everything is geometry. It's just absolutely fascinating. My poor mum, because she says to me now, "Oh, say a prayer to God," and then she looks at me and I'll go, "Universe," and she go, "Well, whatever it is," and I'll go, "Well, Mum, your God is my universe." So it's the same thing, but mine just makes a lot more sense.
You said that you have really good relationships with your parents now. You're very fond of them. But when you were a child, it was a lot more difficult. They were very strict, and it would have been difficult for you given your own challenges. But what would you tell your younger self now about how it might have been different? for you if you knew then what you know now about adult relationships?
Oh gosh, I think that I've got two things I would definitely tell my younger self. And that would be, the feeling that is inside of you that you're going to have the opportunity to make this incredible art and just be so, oh God, so excited and so involved. It will come. And, this is the moment now. And this is what has driven me all these years to, when I've been really depressed and, thinking, oh my God, just thinking it's going to happen because it happens. It is happening now for me. Obviously, I'm still building the work, but this is what I've waited for my whole entire life. So I would say just hang in there, just take it on the chin, whatever bad happens, but just keep that focus because it will happen. The other thing I would tell myself is not everybody is going to like you, and that is okay. You do not have to try and please anybody. And the people that don't like you, the chances are you don't like them anyway. So just ignore it and just get on with your life.
And you have two daughters, Molly and Leonie. How do you parent them given your experiences? Are you strict?
No, we're very, very open with them and very... My mum says that we're quite free-range parents. We chat with them. We're very open about things like mental health, but obviously they have me for a mum. So no, we're very chilled with them. We're not very strict, and but we do expect them to give us respect for that. If they don't respect us for that, then things will change, which we've threatened when they've got a bit like, and it's like, hey, guys, if we're going to treat you, like this, then you have to act responsible, basically. So I think we've got a very good open relationship. They're very, very cool girls. I'm very, very proud of them.
Are they artistic at all?
Yeah. They're both of them not very academic, but they are very artistic and just really lovely people to have around, funny, entertaining, yeah.
And what ages are they now?
So Molly's 14, going on 18, and Leonie's 11.
In terms of your work then, and obviously they understand what you do, you and your husband Dave, but do they take an interest? Do they come out and watch you?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. They've both been, down to forge and stuff. Molly's not so much now because, she's really into sort of beauty and what we do is really dirty. So it's not really good on the nails and hair. But Leonie does. She'll come down and forge and I'll say to her, do you want to do Smith and Striker? So that's where she'll have the metal and hit it with a hammer, but I'll have a sledgehammer to sort of speed the process up. And she'll say, no, Mum, I want to do it without you. I just want to forge on my own, which is really lovely. You feel really like, and I think later on they'll come back round to it just because it's here. And when we do have a group of friends up and we get the fires going, they do always end up coming in and making something.
Well, your repertoire is extensive now in terms of the artwork. It's either form or function. It really is a very, very broad palette, so to speak, that you have now. How much of that would be, of your current work, Bex, would be commission? Because as you said, you had to do the commissions for the bread and butter when you started the business, but how different is that now?
Oh, my goodness. Well, all the work up until just this geometric stuff is all commission-based work. The whole lot. The only pieces probably on my website, I mean, I've taken a lot of stuff off now, is the bench. I did the forged bench that looks like a tufted bench. That was just, I had to make something other than commissions. And I think there was an exhibition going on. And then there was what's it called? It's the one with the holes and stuff. Well, basically there's two pieces in... Oh my goodness. There's two pieces in my sort of portfolio that were sort of my own work. And then it's just the geometric stuff. So literally, I'm only just starting to do what I want to do.
I was wondering that, how much, and that's often a challenge for any artist, isn't it? How much time you have to just create what you want to create.
Yeah, well, now it's very exciting. Oh, God, sorry. It's because every day I can go into the workshop. Well, that's unless I'm teaching, but at the moment we're working with North Devon rural crafts and heritage crafts. Sorry, so we're doing 2 days a week forging. We've got full house, which is great because obviously we're teaching the craft and we're paying the bills. So then all the rest of the time I can go in the workshop, which is just so exciting.
Which part of the whole process do you find the most satisfying? Is it at the design stage and then the materials, obviously pulling those all together and then starting the project, and then the outcome when people get to look at it for the first time and you have that validation?
Yeah, I absolutely love design. I love the research. I love, going out, getting inspired, all of that stuff. I just crave that when I'm out running, and I go down to the sea, I'll just watch the sea and I'll sort of break it down into patterns. And I think that's what I do. I sort of look at things differently. So I love all that bit. I love starting the things. It's really exciting. I think there's that little bit in the middle that where you have a bit of mid-job blues, just because it's like I'm so impatient, and it's like that bit in the middle, sort of, it's like, oh my goodness me, but then you come out the other, and it's just about to come together, and there's sheer excitement. But yeah, to be fair, the whole thing is just wonderful. Love it.
And when you have that design, unlike, an artist, a painter, shall we say, that goes into the studio and has an idea, but has to get into a certain mindset before they start work on the canvas. Do you have to have a moment of sort of transition, or is it such a physical job you just get straight on to the practicalities of it?
Yeah, I think because my brain's so sort of hectic, I have to sort of just try and be very rigid with myself, or else I can sort of lose, what I'm doing and stuff. So I have to sort of just think, no, just get in. And I try to psych myself up as well, and think, oh, you're going to make this. It's really exciting today, and have a little bit of a plan and stuff, because I can be very disorganized. So I do need to work out what I'm doing the day before, so I can, get a good day's work in. Really, I'll always sort of lose a few hours by accident, but
you try and be disciplined.
Yeah, obviously I'm waiting for the ADHD meds. We've only got, I think, about another 3 months to go. It was 9 months since they diagnosed me to help with the concentration. But I'm trying to work really hard on it myself. But yeah, so I'm currently working on 3 sculptures at the same time, so I can do a bit on that one and then think, right, I'm starting to stray my thoughts, so just do a bit on this one. That's how I'm sort of trying to manage it.
So that's helpful, is it then, so that you can just switch around just to keep your mind in the right place?
Yeah, definitely. I think if I tried to just work on one sculpture continuously in one day, it wouldn't really happen. It would just, my brain would just wander. So if it starts to wander, then I think, right, let's do something on that. So then I'm equally as enthusiastic and just try and keep that sort of level going.
What's your parents' reaction to your success as an artist?
Oh my God, they're so proud of me. Oh. Like, they really are, from what I was as a kid, and they're really proud because, they're sort of jaw dropped when I said, I want to be a blacksmith. Well, not, an artist blacksmith. They're just like, you what? So, no, they're incredibly proud of me, which, makes me really happy.
And When you finish a piece, at what point then does it leave the forge? Once you've finished it, do you have to get it out of the way so that you can move on mentally to another piece?
Yeah, I mean, with what I'm making now, because if I leave stuff in the workshop, I mean, it's a big workshop and I'd love to be able to, but things rust in there. So we've got a bit of a blocked up living room at the moment. You have to mind yourself when you go in there. So, but yeah, sort of move it out the way, clean it up, get a nice photo. Because at the moment, what my dream is to have a body of work and put on a big gallery exhibition of my pieces. My pieces aren't just going to be static metalwork. I'm involving sound. So I built sculpture inspired by this rock, Black Church Rock here. It's absolutely stunning place. And I've met a man called Alex who he records data from like seaweed and then creates music. So he went down there and found seaweed there and took frequencies from below the rocks down there. And he's created all this sound, like music. It's absolutely stunning. So that's going to go with the sculpture that rotates and it's going to have lights. And I've got, there's other things that I'm bringing in. So it's not just going to be a static exhibition where you walk in and there's just pieces of metalwork. There's going to be different things going on to bring it alive a bit more.
I was going to ask you that if you are combining other mediums too. I mean, it would be hard for you to have time, I would imagine, to do other things like painting or things that are artistic, but for your own pleasure. But do you like the idea of combining other mediums with your work in the future?
Well, I mean, I used to love, well, it used to be called textiles before it was known as sort of doing fabrics. And I used to mix loads of mediums. I mean, I am going to be using like water, lighting, sound, so things like that. I am definitely, I've got just little bits of copper and stuff. But again, this is such early doors for me. I mean, who knows at this stage? I mean, I've got a lathe that I've been dying to get my hands on working and make stuff. So all sorts of things, hopefully in the future. I'm just right at the beginning of this, which, yeah, it's all very exciting. I just wish I could clone myself and have like 5 me's.
What about wood then? You mentioned the lathe. Do you like working in wood?
Well, I mean, the lathe, we did metal work on it.
Oh, so,
okay. Sort of sculpting bars and things like that. So, yeah, just different components and things like that.
What's on your bucket list?
Of what, making or visiting places or?
All of the above: life, work, family, personal goals.
Oh, my goodness. Well, bucket list, the one that you just instantly popped in my head then is go to Iceland, not the shop. Because the rock formations there, the atmosphere of the place, I mean, that would just be amazing experience, that my goal through my whole life is to build an incredible body of work and have it all in an amazing exhibition space and literally pour my heart and soul, all my feelings, just everything that I've bottled up for all these years and just making incredible art, but with forged steel, metalwork. I mean, that geometry, sort of bringing people together. That's the sort of main goal of everything.
And what are you most proud of now when you look at the body of work that you have, which is extensive, Bex? What would you say that you're most proud of?
I think it's the work that I'm doing now, the geometalism work. I mean, every piece that I've made in my whole career, every piece that I got commissioned and I designed and I built and I made, I loved it so much. And I wouldn't ever leave the workshop unless I was 100% happy. So if I lost money on it because it had to be good, I would I would just literally, it has to be the best of my ability. So every single piece I look at fondly and, really happy. There's ones where I can remember exactly what was happening in my life and stuff, but I think the most proudest now is what I'm making now, because I've waited so long and I've got this sort of formula now that I want to work to. And I mean, gosh, the ideas, I go out, I walk with the dog and I come back and I've got another piece I want to make. So yeah, I need a good 5 years to just literally bed down in the workshop and create.
I'm wondering what your teachers might say about you now, because obviously school was so challenging back then, but you found your niche, you found your pathway, and they may have been frustrated with you back then, but I'm wondering if they know what you're doing now and how successful you are.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to know. I remember Susie Fortune when I was doing my degree, because I tried to actually leave halfway through my degree. And she actually sat me down and said, look, I really think there's something, in you, there's something there. And she persuaded me to stay. And I did actually have some contact with her. Well, this is now many years ago. And I did actually thank her and stuff. And, it was a really sweet moment, actually. But yeah, I'd love to think that they are proud of me now.
Well, you mentioned the challenges that you've been through, obviously, mentally in your life. But I'm wondering now, with the commissions that you have, the pressure that you have to produce the work continually, how you cope with that pressure. And also, do you feel that you're a confident person now, that you've proved yourself and your self-worth, that, you can balance all of these things in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I'm going to be 52 this year, and I think for the first time, I feel like in a really sort of satisfied place. I've got an amazing husband. I've got 2 brilliant kids. I've got a lovely family. Where we live is amazing, and now, I'm going to create some amazing art that I've always wanted to, and so I feel so happy. I'm really blessed, really fortunate to be, in this. And yeah, I suppose I do actually, for the first time, have a bit of confidence about myself. I'm turning everything down at the moment. So it was just when I saw you're promoting women and stuff. So I thought, no, I do want to do this, but. Yeah, before I always felt like I had to do everything, because you've got to get the name out. But now I'm like, I don't want to do anything else anymore. I just want to create my art. So, I don't need to go out and do any public speaking or hold a masterclass, because that's not what I want to do. I just want to make my own art. So, yeah, for the first time, I do feel amazingly content. We're working incredibly hard, though, because, we're teaching and then I'm doing this and we're running the family, but I just love it all. So I just feel really fortunate and grateful.
Yes, it sounds like you're in a wonderful place right now. And of course, that helps you creatively, too, if you're in a very good place personally.
Oh, my goodness. What you said at the beginning of just that question, the thing about when I did actually step into the workshop for the first time without a commission and with this new, I'm going to be an artsmith, I actually spun out and I felt really lost and really like I had vertigo, because I thought, my God, this is a huge responsibility, because I'm not bringing in commissions. So I'm not putting money on the table. I'm paying for this workshop. I have to come in here and make art every day now. I know you feel really like panicked. Well, I don't know if anyone else did. So I contacted a few friends who are artists, and they gave me some great advice, and stuff. And that's really helped me settle into this role. But I think because I've been so desperate to get to this place in my life. Now it's endless, the amount of things I'm scribbling down. I don't think I'm going to get artist block at all.
It doesn't sound like it, no. And I can imagine there's been some really cool moments in your life, personally and also professionally. Can you reflect on maybe a couple of those that real milestones in your life that were turning points and that you'll always treasure?
Oh my goodness. I think that there was a big pair of double leaf gates I made for my mum and dad as a thank you, because they let me move back to theirs for, I can't remember how many years, at the beginning of my business. And that was, I mean, you know, on my own, making those gates was, it was quite a feat. And I felt really pleased. They were very beautiful at the time, you know. And then another time was the Covent Garden gates, and working with Chris Bramall. That was another opportunity. I think the people that we work with along the way, that's something that I will always be very grateful to any collaboration that we did. Richard Hillam's always been a fantastic person to work with, and he's done quite a few designs. Well, I've given him over like a scratchy, sketchy design, and he's like turned it into amazing pieces. And also the Ministry of Justice job there, like Terry Clark, you know, he's been an amazing help. Like we rented space off him, but we did that job was like a collaboration with him, and we had a team of blacksmiths, and that was an incredible piece of artwork. It took a year to build with a team of brilliant blacksmiths, and everyone put their heart and soul into that. So that, that was another thing. And then obviously being awarded Tommy Pandy, which is from the Worshipful Company of Blacksmiths, which is a high achieving award that you get. And obviously it was for the whole team, not just myself. So yeah, there's some brilliant, things that have happened along the way that, you do think, gosh, really, that's happened.
Something for the memoir.
Yeah, completely.
Well, it seems there's a lot more work to come and a lot more to look forward to, Bex. Thank you very much for being my guest this week.
Oh, well, thank you very much for having me. It's been brilliant.
And you'll find more information as well as links to Bex's website and her social media, and also a link to our YouTube video with bonus content. In fact, you'll find every season of the AART Podcast, that's over 100 episodes so far, on the AART Podcast YouTube channel, as well as these videos of bonus content where you will get to see our guests in conversation with me, which we record right after we've recorded the podcast episode. And whilst you're on YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. And also follow us on social media. We're on Instagram at the AART Podcast. And of course, you can reach us here directly at theartpodcast@gmail.com. If you have any suggestions for guests, we always love to hear from you. And we already have some great guests lined up for you, including the award-winning National Geographic photographer Esther Horvath, the British painter Francis Featherstone, the American food stylist Priscilla Browning, and the British textile artist and free motion embroiderer Alison Holt. So, lots to look forward to here on the podcast. Now, I hope you'll share this with anyone that you think might enjoy the show as well. And again, don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel at the AART Podcast, and also click the follow button on your podcast app. My thanks again to my guest this week, Bex Simon, and to you for listening. I'll be back in 2 weeks' time, so I do hope you'll join me then.